Hello everyone and welcome to the Great British Mickey Waffle. I'm your host Ben. Today we're diving into what it takes to make a family or group trip to Walt Disney World truly special. Whether it's navigating schedules, balancing everyone's interests, or finding those magical moments that bring everyone together, travelling with a group can be an adventure in itself. We'll share our top tips, stories and a few lessons learned to help you plan your next unforgettable Disney journey. So grab a cuppa and let's start waffling.
Now my wheels in motion and my windows open with the wind blowing in my hair. I'm driving down the highway, gonna do this my way. I can feel it in the air. Here I
We're firmly in November, and with Halloween and Bonfire Night merely a distant memory, it's time to get ready for my favourite time of year, Christmas. So joining me on today's show, we have Becca and John. Hello, you both. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I was just going to. I'm going to start with me bar I'm starting with bar humbug, Ben. It's way too early.
Oh, it's November, John. It's middle of November. Come on.
It
By the
doesn't
time
matter,
we
it's
did the
still
recording-
Too early. It's too early.
By the time we do the recording for the next show, we'll have a Christmas tree in the background.
That is true.
Oh,
I'm surprised it's not there already.
I know.
Only because you won't let me.
I know, but yeah.
You've got work.
That is true. Yeah, I'm sorry, because this is my setup for work now. I know there's a lot of Lego behind me. I'm not sure
Apparently,
whether.
we can't have a Christmas tree on the 3rd of November.
Oh, it might
No,
happen.
you can't. It's not allowed.
No, what I need to do is have one of those like Teams or Zoom backgrounds so I can change it to what I want behind. But yeah,
Oh, no, shut
I
up.
know. But also joining us today, I would like to welcome our special guest for the show, a long-time listener and Disney enthusiast, Steve McDermott. We're thrilled to have you here, Steve.
Yeah, thanks guys. Excited to be here.
So I hear you've listened to pretty much all of our shows.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say I couldn't confess to having had them all, heard them all. But yeah, I found you guys in 2019 through Lou Mongello, who I've listened to for a long, long time, and enjoyed that first one. And then yeah, just been kind of hooked ever since because it's great to have the kind of British perspective on it all, especially with the the travel element as well as the Disney parks element.
Yeah, so much more goes into booking a Disney trip than if you live 10, 15 minutes away to having to travel 4,000 miles.
Yeah, 100%. A bit more thinking to do.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah,
It's
and
great
as
to
you
have you
are
on the
regular
show.
listeners to the show,
It really is.
yeah, I think you'll have a head start when it comes to our first segment, which is our Carousel of Questions. So,
Yeah, I'm quite familiar with these. So
okay.
I
Yeah,
don't think we've changed
settle
any of
down.
them.
I have added an additional one at the end,
Oh.
just because I thought it's topical for this time of year. So,
Ooh.
but no. But are you ready, Steve?
yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. So the first question, what is your favourite park?
Favourite parks, Epcot.
Good choice.
And I mean that's evolved over time. I think as a kid, I mean I was fortunate to go as a kid, and it was always Hollywood Studios. But Epcot, I don't think I'm ever more relaxed than when I'm in Epcot. And I love World Showcase. I love how the park's like two. There's like there's more to it now, but it used to be very much two halves. And whenever anybody asked me about what my kind of best day at Disney would be, it would probably be always a Sunday, always at Epcot. Stroll around World Showcase, and you've got the mix of rides and as well.
Yeah.
And the overhaul there. I mean, I've just been back for the first time in 6 years, so I've missed the construction.
You haven't the experience walking in and being surrounded by walls and having to go this way and that way. Oh, that's
Yeah,
it's an experience.
yeah. Well, I mean, Communical Hall wasn't quite finished.
Okay.
But I visited a time when Disney Springs was being turned from downtown Disney, and that was what I imagine Epcot has looked like for the last 5 years. It was just kind of walkways everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100% Epcot. I love it there.
So, what is a ride that you hate?
I can't bring myself to say I hate anything. What I would rephrase it as the one I am least bothered about going on is probably Mission Space. And that was, I mean, when that well, I've heard other people say it as well. And I think when it first arrived in the park, loved it because it was so different. But I think as I got a bit older, I've just been like, I've had to think about it. you know. And my last trip was probably the first trip where I didn't go on it. So that would probably be my top one. But then I never loved Honey, I Shrunk the Audience as a kid,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is obviously no more. I mean, the snake bit in particular was terrifying.
Although I must
I
admit,
don't
did
think
you
I
ever
ever-
go to see? Did you see Captain EO?
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
Never
because
seen
actually I went from a stage where I didn't particularly like Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, and then actually I went to see Captain EO, and I thought, oh right, hang on, let's swap that over. Actually,
Yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Audience actually was a plus on what EO kind of became. It was just like, yeah, it was one of them, and you're thinking, yeah, this isn't good. It's not good.
I don't even know. I think that must be the Pixar Short Theatre now.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we,
I
we
mean,
never did
which-
Captain EO. I think it was.
which is
No,
a big
I
improvement.
think Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
Yeah, I think it was still open. Was it 2014?
I think so.
On
Yeah, they
our
brought it back.
second trip.
Yeah, I remember them bringing it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As like some kind of anniversary of it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we've been in the Pixar Shorts Theatre either.
That's not true.
Oh,
We
really?
went in there to meet Mickey.
no, we went there to meet Mickey, but that was it. We didn't actually do the
you're
actual
missing
shorts.
out. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It is absolutely superb. If only just to go and see Piper, it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Because you see it on the big screen as well, so it's
Yeah,
like a movie theatre, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we digress. Let's go to the next question. What's the most overrated snack?
The Cheshire cat tail.
Ooh.
Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
I don't think anyone's ever said that one.
Ooh.
No,
I'd
there
say
you go.
it's too small. It would be that's why I'd say it's overrated. For what
Yeah.
it costs and what it is,
Yeah.
I expected it to be bigger than what it was.
It used to be a good deal on the with the quick service dining plan back in the day because it was like you didn't really fuss. You knew it was
Snack
inexpensive. It was good value, sort of from the cost perspective. But yeah, there are so many other snacks that probably fit that bill now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I mean, can you include overrated drink as well?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I had this big dilemma when I went last about Joffrey's versus Starbucks because I'm very much a Starbucks person.
Yeah.
But there was this big thing about the Joffrey's shaken Jamaican,
Yes.
and I did not enjoy it.
I've not tried it, but I've heard so many vloggers say how good it is, and it's like I just don't get it.
I don't like iced coffee, so
Yeah.
Okay. So, well,
automatic
I
no
kind of
for me.
I just got into iced coffee, and I thought, I'd heard one particular content creator go on about it. I thought I'll try on it, and no, it wasn't for me.
No. Did you get a chance to try the one in Galaxy's Edge?
No.
Don't.
Right.
It-
Noted.
Yeah, well, that comes from someone who doesn't like cold coffee.
I mean, yes, I don't
Iced
like cold
coffee.
coffee, but it was horrible.
It was okay, but no, it was having like cocoa rocks on the top of your drink that get stuck in the straw doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think there's an element you've just got to have what you like, don't you? What
Yeah.
you're used to in some instances.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so what is your favourite transportation mode in Walt Disney World?
Oh, pass. No, that's hard. So I'm forever a monorail guy. So that would be my historical answer. However, having experienced the Skyliner this time round, I absolutely loved it because we stayed at Art of Animation as well, so it was so useful. You guys have helped me find like soundscapes as well.
Yeah.
So Jason's white noise, I use that as white noise, his Skyliner one, because it is so great. And I think Ben and Becca, when you were there a couple of months ago, you happened to do a live when you were on there.
Yeah.
And I just flicked on Instagram and I was like, I'll see what they're doing, and I was like, this is great.
There's something about the Skyliner that it's just because we hadn't yet been on that route of the Skyliner because we'd not been to Pop or Art of Animation, so we thought we didn't have a park ticket that day. Let's just go and do a Skyliner crawl and see what food and drink we could get. It was, and we spent a good hour or so just walking around Art of Animation.
It's a gorgeous resort.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
So
I
fun.
mean, it's just I mean, the Skyline's a fab addition, and then to link those two hotels there, Pop and Art of Animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was great to stay in, and because we've always wanted to kind of go and see it, and then this time was just an opportunity to stay, and I loved it.
Steve, it's worth pointing out to everyone as well, you actually don't need to stay in any of these resorts. So if you maybe come from the UK, you think, oh, I want to go on the Skyline, you can actually just walk on, and you can actually go and you can have a look around the resorts and things like that. And again, with the way that the tickets are at the moment, if you've got like a 14-day ticket, but you're there for maybe a little bit longer, and you, like Ben and Becca just said, if you've not got a park ticket that for one particular day, it's a great way of actually going and resort hopping and just seeing what's available and actually just soaking up a little bit of the Disney magic as well. So, I'm pleased you said that, because I think it's kind of an underrated part, because a lot of people think you have to be staying in a resort to actually use it. So, yeah, good call that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think people that haven't been just wouldn't know anyway, and then the people that do go and start to realise and evolve how that your holiday can be a I've often said to people, I could go and not set foot in a park and have a great time, just because it's in the name, isn't it? Walt Disney World. There are more things there than the theme parks, and
spot on.
Great experiences. Yeah,
good stuff.
So, what is your favourite table service restaurant?
100% Ohana, and that's just something we've done regularly since for the last 10. Well, every time, the trips over the last 10 years has always included an Ohana. I've done both dinner and breakfast, and I love the poly. I love the fact that you can watch the fireworks in the evening if you time it right, whether you watch it during your meal or afterwards down by the beach. And I think it's just a great experience. You got, the waiting staff, cast members are really interactive. But we did the character breakfast this time, really enjoyed it. So it's kind of a staple, like it's got to be in a kind of a McDermott Disney holidays, that we end up at Ohana at least once.
And the food there, every time I look at the menu, there's so much choice for me on the menu, but we've not been because...
Yeah, I'm not a huge pineapple fan,
So we've not yet gone.
No.
But...
What do you prefer, breakfast or dinner?
So I prefer dinner. Definitely. Yeah, I think the character breakfast was great. We did it actually on my son's 5th birthday because he wanted to meet Stitch, and that was it. And that was brilliant, so good. But it was just a little bit more chaotic at breakfast, as opposed to, because you're obviously trying to enjoy what you're eating as well as like manage the characters, because they were very quick. There's the 4 and they come through very quickly, as opposed to dinner where you can kind of take your time and it's a bit more laid back, I'd say. So if you're going to punt for one, go for the dinner option.
Okay, and you get the Ohana noodles.
I was going to say, I'd go for the noodles.
Exactly.
Yeah,
which they don't serve at breakfast for obvious reasons. Unless there's maybe a special occasion, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, but you can get them at Tambu Lounge.
Yeah, so we usually just go and get them in Tambu Lounge.
We've been to Tambu Lounge twice just to get the noodles.
Yeah.
And the bread pudding.
There you go.
Which, that's just... well, I'm going to digress a little bit, but you can actually... You probably know this anyway. You can get I didn't realise until my last trip, you can get the bread pudding to go at Kona Cafe, I think.
Yeah.
Which we did, and
yeah,
100% doing that every single time.
Yeah, it is incredible. Yeah, we've managed to get a table both times at Tambu, so we've just had it there. But next time, I think it's going to happen. It's going to be on the list.
What, Ohana?
No, well, maybe. You never know. You've got to. Well, you might not be eating anything at dinner, but you'll have the noodles. Have a plate of noodles.
So I'm going to move us on quickly, Steve, because otherwise these two will be off on the next holiday.
Anyway,
tell us a resort that you haven't stayed at but want to more than anything else on there.
I want to stay at the beach club. We were very fortunate. We wanted to do something special. We did the Poly for a couple of days in February when we've just been, and that would have been the answer to the question. But I've got this. I love the boardwalk. The boardwalk is my favourite spot at Disney. So to stay at the beach club at equal walking distance to Epcot Hollywood Studios. You've got the Skyliner there if you want to. You've got the boardwalk, which I just love the boardwalk. So that would be the one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether anyone
do you
said
want?
that before.
It's my one, so
Okay.
I've said
You
it
said it.
before. Although I have noticed the amount of resorts that I get to choose from is slowly dwindling. So
Yeah, that is true. Beach Club's still on that list, I think.
Beach Club is still on the list.
Yeah, definitely. But
It is quite the place, and I think when you've got young kids as well, it makes such a difference because actually some of the pool facilities there really do set up so well for kids, and also because you are so close to Epcot, it means that if the kids are at that stage where they're sort of mid-afternoon, they need a little bit of a break or whatever, then it's not a hassle to come out of the park. You just like, you dip out, you're back to the room for a bit, you recharge, you have a bit of chill out time, and then you're just like a 2-minute walk back in, and it's a game changer. Once you've experienced it and you're actually been in one of those, in that scenario where you're so close to Epcot, you kind of struggle to think about anywhere else once you've stayed there. I think it's a great call. I think it is a fantastic place to stay.
I think
Put it on
anything
your
else
list.
on Crescent Lake.
Top of your
just
list.
amazing.
That would be the fear, though. It would have to become a standard, which is very difficult.
I
to
know.
It's very different going to a resort and one day you stay at the Grand Floridian and then the next trip you end up at All Star Sports.
Yeah.
It's quite the contrast.
Yeah.
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 We've done that.
We did that last year.
Not that hard.
It was.
Perfectly acceptable, just not quite.
It's a very different trip that you plan for.
Yeah.
If I'm staying at the Grand, I'm going to have a bit more relaxing time than park time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What is your favourite car park?
My favourite car. I love this question.
I love it when we get
So the way-
American listeners tune in and go, car park? What's a car park? Because I remember it took Lou Mangello a little while to go, I don't know what that is. And then
It's funny, Ben, because you could almost hear, if you listen back to that,
It was
episode,
keyboard
you almost
type.
hear, he was Googling, what does car park mean in English? And it's just like, oops. We sort of go, a parking lot. There we go. We're sorted.
So my favourite car park is Hollywood Studios, and the reason for that is basically it's my first Disney memory. So my first trip, we stayed on International Drive, and I need to quiz my dad about this really, but I assume he got lost, and I was only 10 at the time, so I was asleep between the airport and trying to find our hotel. I fell asleep. When I woke up, we were in Hollywood Studios or MGM Studios car park, and I was kind of like, but what we were actually meeting. I had some school friends there who we were meeting there the following day, and he must have been scouting it out. And so and that's every time I'm kind of in that car park or see it from the Skyliner or the buses or whatever, that is what I think about.
Oh, I love that. It's so easy to get lost in Walt Disney World, though. First time driving, I remember getting lost from the airport.
We got lost about 3 times on that.
How many U-turns we had to do? I think it was only one, but yeah.
I mean, I don't know how people navigated at all before sat-navs. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was great.
to get
You
lost
just,
there is...
just do what my mum did when we went the first time with my mum. It's fine. We just take a right at the Walgreen. Now, little did we know how many Walgreens.
How many the Walgreens there are?
between the airport and getting down to the 192, and by which time her and my dad, they weren't. By the time we turned up, they weren't speaking to each other. My dad had basically thrown the car keys at my mum the previous day, and he wasn't driving. He was a proper driver of the two, and you just sense as we got picked up at the airport, you could sense this atmosphere in the car. I'm like, what? Right, okay. What we walked in, and they had no clue whatsoever as to where they were going. They never had a map. Sat navs hadn't even been invented. There's no mobile phones back in the day, so it literally was. We turned right at the Walgreen, and actually, even now, I have no idea. I had no idea until it's just come to my head. We went one time about 6, 7, 8 years after that. And my mum came out on her own after my dad died. And it was so funny because we then started the wind up with my mum because she thought that the airport was 2 hours away from the 192 because it'd always be taking 2 hours. And so I'd got down to the 192 in about half an hour and then started the bit. It's really good that they've made the airport closer to where we're staying, isn't it? Oh, much better, isn't it? Much better. She didn't realise it was the same airport. I was just like, we just continued to just enjoy the joke. Walgreens, let's take a ride.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that was a little aside.
Every time next trip, John, every time I see a Walgreens, I'm gonna have to turn right.
Oh, it's Ben. Once you start down that line, we have had so much fun over the years with that. Just that one experience, and the whole fact that it doesn't take you 2 hours to get from the airport, but every time it took me mother that time. Anyway, we go.
So, Typhoon Lagoon, Blizzard Beach, or Volcano Bay?
Blizzard Beach. I've never been to Volcano Bay, so I can't speak for that. But out of the two, definitely Blizzard Beach. I think the rides are better. I think I just enjoy the vibe a little bit more. The Typhoon selling point is obviously the wave pool over Blizzard Beach, but I think as a package, that's my preference, Blizzard Beach. Plus, you got Winter Summerland like right next door as well, so you can bulk the day out.
I like that. That's good. Yeah, because I always find a water park for us is in like a couple of hours, 2-3 hours, bit relaxing time. To me, it's always feels like a half day, and especially when
it's not relaxing, Ben.
Especially when you pay $20 to pay for the locker. Yeah, but the thing is, the only times we've been to Blizzard Beach is I found a lazy river, and there we go. Leave me there for hours.
No.
Summit Plummet. Come on, that's it. We want to get you on that. That's it.
So Summit Plummet is like the best thing ever, basically.
Okay.
The first time I went on that, I went up with my dad. And we stopped talking to each other the higher we got because we were obviously. I think he was more nervous than me.
Yeah.
Andy made me go first.
It's like, you're going to have to go first. You're dealing with this.
Exactly. And but we took the kids there. We used it as like a breakout day this time round.
Yeah.
And we took the day basically. And I was itching to go on Summit Plummet the whole day, and I was letting them have the time in the frozen area and the pool and all that. I was like, right, can I go now, please?
Yeah.
Well, you can do Velocicoaster. You should be able to do Summit Plummet.
It's so funny.
It's over in seconds.
Yeah, but it's so funny because it's all about the psychological warfare. The higher you get up, and then you get someone who's got to the front, and they've decided, no, I'm going to start that walk of shame coming back down the steps.
I couldn't do that. To me, once I've got up to a point, it's like I've got to go on it.
Yeah, but it then starts, you see other people, and if they've got kids with them as well, usually, and it's like the kids start wobbling a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay, but let's just keep it nice and calm. We'll be all right, kids, we'll be fine. And by the time you get to the top, I do the same as your dad. It's basically the kids go down first, and then I have to face up to my own fears.
Yeah,
I'm just like, if they've done it, I can't turn around and just back out now. I have to go, and it is the most amazing experience, and actually, it's worth it. It's worth it for the view.
Okay,
you get to the top of there, and you get the view going. Basically, the whole of that greater Orlando area, and you just if you actually get away with taking a camera up there and getting a couple of snapshots, I would have done it, but obviously, I'm more sort of in life preservation mode, and I'm just making sure.
They do let you take.
You can go with a GoPro and things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's I saw the same every time. I always get up there with it, and I'm thinking, oh, surely they're going to ban this one out, but no, they let you do it.
Okay.
You got some great kind of, because it's obviously a wide lens, so you get some great shots.
Yeah.
Oh, dear man, I'm not going to ask my usual question after that about wedgies and things like that. We'll avoid that one. I'll move us on quickly. Nobody will notice. Galaxy's Edge or Diagon Alley?
So I'm a Harry Potter fan over a Star Wars fan. Yep. So I'd have to say Diagon Alley. However, I mean, I've seen every Star Wars film. I'm just not like I'm just not an avid Star Wars fan. But the
Yeah.
first time I went in Galaxy's Edge, I mean, that place is a joke. I mean, the what they've done there is unbelievable, and I was taken aback of how big it was. And I mean, I was in a bit of a rush, which I can go on to later. While I was in a rush to get into Galaxy's Edge, but you know, I had a quick interaction with the cast member because I was looking for Rise of the Resistance.
Yep.
And he completely took me off guard because he was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that, but if you you know," and I was like, "Why is this guy being awkward?" And then the penny dropped that obviously
It's the
they're in
theming.
storytelling mode.
Yeah.
And I kind of just gave him a nice one and then just carried on. So, but yeah, I mean, the theming there is just, I mean, I think they've really outdone themselves with that one.
Yeah.
I think for you, Ben, you're probably at an advantage because I know you're a massive Star Wars fan, but I'm a bit with you, Steve. I watch the films, but I'm not completely into that complete world of Star Wars. So when it happened to us, and you end up with a cast member and they're completely in role, you don't know kind of what to say.
Yep.
And you kind of feel a lot.
I don't think we're used to that experience with cast members. I think even when you think, I'd probably put it in the same sort of thing, you know, when you go on Tower of Terror and you have that sort of interaction sometimes with the cast member when they're trying to when they're really in character. It feels just like that level, but just 10 times. Because it's the whole story and everything around it. It's a bit like if you walked into Diagon Alley and there was Sirius Black walking by. It would be something, and it was that sort of interaction. That's something Universal needs to do.
Possibly missing from the Harry Potter element is I think there could be a bit more immersive with maybe the people that work there. But because you know every cast member in Disney is there to kind of make your holiday great. So when somebody's in like a storytelling mode, especially like Tower of Terror, that's a great example. But that's just part of it. It's part of what we do. I guess.
So are you early morning or a late night park visit?
Late nights. There is nothing like a Disney park under the moonlight and the lights, and they're also different at night as well. And I mean, I'm very much a night owl, so it suits me down to the ground. Nights when we've been in kind of like Magic Kingdom when they used to do really late hours. You know,
like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, it's like there's like a delirium, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant.
When you've been in the park and the fireworks were like 2 hours ago, and you're still going on like Big Thunder Mountain and just walking down Main Street, it's just
And there's nobody there.
Yeah.
There's no.
When you get to a point where security are there, just like slowly edging you out of the park. It's quite nice.
That happened to me this time actually.
Oh really?
This is the same story with why I was late for Galaxy's Edge. But I just found myself in the park in Magic Kingdom late, and I went towards Haunted Mansion to go out that way, and I was told quite firmly to go another way because they obviously perceived that to be a longer route back to the entrance.
Oh, okay.
So I had my marching orders.
Well, it's always, you can tell when it's getting to the last few minutes because all the photopass photographers have gone from Main Street. And it's like, okay, this just doesn't feel right when you walk down Main Street and there's practically no one behind you. Some great photo opportunities, but it's one of those that you just think, I may have overstayed a little bit longer than planned.
Yeah.
So, keep the magic or backstage detail?
Backstage detail for me. I would love to be an Imagineer, which I'm sure most people would. But I'm quite obsessed with the things on Disney Plus, like when they tell the story of like the making of Frozen 2 and behind the attraction, and there was one about the parks. I can't remember what it was called.
The Imagineering story.
The Imagineering story. That's it. And I love all that. And I've not done like a backstage tour. My wife, we went Christmas in 2016, and she was trying to do it as a surprise and just couldn't. We were only there for a week, so she couldn't fit it in. But that's something I've got to wait for my kids to be a bit older now, I think. But I would love to do one of those. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's something about doing with the Keys to the Kingdom last year, and it was just incredible. It's
that's it. everybody.
5 hours of just. I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about it. And when you think the price value, because I think it's about $114, and when you think that it's like just over $20 an hour, and it's like you're getting food included, you're going to get to see things like the utilidors, a bit of backstage detail, and just being talked, just asking you can ask all these questions about the history of Magic Kingdom and other parts, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, I bet something like that just flies by as well at the time because
It
so
does.
you just want to you're just trying to soak it all in, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think one of the problems that I found with it, having done it a couple of times now, is trying to remember everything that you're basically told. So what we did, and thankfully I did it myself the first time because the kids were too young, and thankfully this summer the kids were an age that they could go and do it. So what we did is, having experienced the whole tour, which was superb, but we then went and walked as much of it as we could to just try and absorb what we've been told. Because obviously you can't record it, you can't stand there and video stuff and things like that. So we were trying to just take a little bit more time to just, again, particularly going up Main Street and looking at some of the windows and again trying to just relay some of the stories of some of the Imagineers that you were being told. You know, you're kind of overwhelmed by information, and it's, for anyone who's got a love of Disney, it's just the most amazing experience. And again, going back to some of them shows on the Disney on Disney Plus, that they kind of add to your own experience when you're in the park as well. You know, once you start, you know, I think I know you've listened to a lot of our stuff, so you know it's probably a good time to plug some of the Imagineers that we've covered this year. But I think from all of us, researching that slot has been so amazing because we've kind of adopted each of these Imagineers that we've spoken about, and so you then become really embroiled in it, and you start thinking, yeah, this is there because of this person, or this person. And it's wonderful. And, you know, I think it takes that level of Disneyness to another level, doesn't it? You know, you're not just there for the theme park. You're actually there because you actually want to see what a certain Imagineer put in place. And it maybe gets a bit nerdy after a while, but it's very good.
Yeah, but that's when it becomes more than a theme park, I think, because the depth of the storytelling, when you can appreciate that, it's just another experience.
Yeah.
And
spot on with that.
Yeah.
Spot on. Anyway, I'm going to move us on because I'm aware, like, this started off as a quick fire.
It's never quick fire.
Yeah, and it's never ever been quick fire because actually the stories that we get from this set of questions is just always is so superb. Here we go. Tell us your favorite other podcast or vlogger about Disney. Who's your favorite?
Vlogging wise, I really like the Kershaws. From a UK perspective and like a family orientation, and I like their ethos. So I enjoy kind of seeing what they get up to and how they do it. And they were actually there. Almost tried to cross paths a little bit. Our last day I was there. And podcast wise, obviously Lou Mangello. He had a show called Mouse Tunes, I think, before WDW Radio, which I listened to. I think when iTunes launched, that was probably the first podcast I downloaded, and that's when I kind of had a renaissance with Disney myself. That kind of came on, and there's so many out there now, but they'd probably be my two picks for each, kind of the go-to over the years.
Okay.
Good stuff.
So, are you a person who wants to stay on site or off site?
On site.
Quite an easy one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just not comparable for me. I've been very fortunate to have stayed on site a lot. The first time I went, we didn't, and then we stayed in a villa. We went with my wife's family, 2018, which was the last time I went before this year, and we kind of tagged along a little bit, and they stayed in a villa, and it was the first time I'd driven there, and it was, got a little bit of getting used to, but it just wasn't. And we stayed in Champions Gate, which I don't think is the best location, because getting out in particular was a real pain, especially when, then I was very much like dawn till dusk.
Yeah.
And when you add in a car journey into that, it's not great.
And traffic, and you don't think about it when you stay on site and you do sort of park open to park close. It's like, that's fine. I'll have a nap on the bus on the way back. It's,
So definitely. I mean, on site, just and that bubble is just that's. I have to have the bubble. It's just so good.
So, the slightly contentious question: Festival of the Lion King or Finding Nemo?
So I thought, having listened to your podcast and having listened to John campaign, and from the father element, I fully expected to come on here and say Finding Nemo, because watching Finding Nemo as a dad, as opposed to not being a dad, completely different lens. And when he says bye dad, I expected I'm going to see that, I'm going to be in pieces. But we didn't do it. We didn't do it this year. Therefore, I have to say Lion King.
yeah.
Oh, there you go.
And that was, and I mean, obviously knowing I was coming on, I've kind of just looked back at a few photos and stuff from trips, and the Lion King is always in that. But then I didn't do Lion King this time either. And I think that was, it might be something we get onto, but just with the kids, both shows, the age they are, just didn't quite fit.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's very rigid with the times, with the show times, and neither. So, sorry, John. Maybe in the future.
No, there's no need to apologise. I actually think it's a really good way of looking at it, and I think I'm going to ask you the last question, and then I think we need to come back to the family part of it, because I do feel that influences so much of your park day that I want our listeners to hear about that. And it doesn't matter about not seeing certain shows and things like that, because it's your kids' holiday too, and you have to be reactive to their needs. And I think that's a really good thing to hear from you, the fact that you didn't just plow on and say, well, I have to go and see this, or I have to do that because I've always done it. You've actually reacted to what your kids actually need from you as a dad. And I think that for me is a really, really powerful message to share with people. So I'm just going to finish off. One last question. Was it Halloween or Christmas? Because obviously Ben's keeping us right on point as to being festive and
What
all
time
that.
it is?
Yeah.
So
I'll get a bit of ho 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 and all that,
So it would be Christmas, and that's because I've been there at Christmas time.
It's an experience.
I mean, it's really phenomenal.
Superb.
Really. But we have got plans to go for Halloween next year, so
awesome.
I'll be able to do a comparison of the two. But definitely, I've got to say Christmas.
I love that. Yeah. So, going back to what John was just saying, actually, about how different is it to plan for a family? Because I know for us, there's only a couple of us. It's easy for us to plan what we're doing on a holiday. We go for 14 days, what parks we want to do. We just talk amongst each other and work out what we want to do, what are our must-dos. What stuff goes into planning when you've got a bigger group or a family?
I think it depends on the age of the kids, 100%. And, I went as a 10-year-old. The first time I went was as a 10-year-old. So my kids aren't that age yet. So it was still going to be very different the lens I saw it through. And, we've been fortunate that we've gone quite a few times. So the planning always evolves, doesn't it? And I think sometimes the mistake people can make is trying to do the same thing or trying to get the same experience. I don't think it quite works like that. So we were very mindful that this was, it was our holiday with the kids tagging along. But
it always is. Even when they get older, it's still the same. Don't worry. Don't feel guilty for it. It stays the same.
So we were very intentional about where are we going to stay, because we've got the stroller. You have to collapse the stroller on a bus. You have to collapse the stroller. You do have to collapse it on the Skyliner, but the Skyliner, we stayed at Art of Animation, so it was brilliant. And we only shared a gondola on a few occasions with somebody else, so it's not a hassle to collapse it. We had a double one as well. We didn't have the tandem ones. If you've got a tandem stroller, you don't have to collapse that on the Skyliner. It goes straight on.
Okay.
which was something we were looking into. So, but the double just worked for us. So, especially, I mean, four. My son was 4, turning 5, so it's a bit of a funny age in terms of a stroller, because they wouldn't necessarily be wanting one at home, but you need it for, if you're out all day, they're going to need to nap or take a rest. So we're very intense about location. We stayed at Art of Animation and the Polynesian, so we had the Skyliner from the Art of Animation, which could get us to Hollywood Studios, Epcot, and Magic Kingdom, obviously, to take the monorail without needing to really take everything off the stroller. And then obviously at the Poly, you don't have to collapse it on the monorail, so it can go straight on. You have to think about, again, mine were 5 and 2, so my youngest still was very like in nappies, and you're loading up on that. The suitcase packing was quite the task. We would try to be intentional about when we were eating, so we were very much like, in the past we've done trips where you've sat down a lot, which as time has gone on, we've not really preferred that. We prefer to graze and then just eat as you're hungry. And I think that's the mentality, with young kids, that's the mentality that they will show you very quickly that they're tired or they're hungry, and you need to produce something very quickly. So we did a lot of quick service, but we also I think we had a suitcase pretty much of snacks going out there. And we watched a lot of, there's great YouTube content with people packing for children going to Disney specifically. So we had a bag for each of them, and then a bag for us, labelled per day, which my wife was great at. So it was very quick to get ready in the morning, or as quick as you can be. But it was really useful because you've got, it obviously it's expensive to eat at Disney. So if you can fill those gaps and keep them relatively happy, then not that you're going to have a better day because of it, but you know what I mean. It's just it flows a little bit better.
You're just a bit more prepared and just sort of
Be a little bit easier starting off some of those.
I'm going to pick up on that, Steve, because I think you've hit upon a really good planning tip here as well. And actually, my kids were the same age when we took them for the first time as well, at age of 5 and 2. And if they've got particular go-to either treats, snacks, drinks that that they love, then don't rely on getting them in the States, because actually they generally, if they are the same ones, it tastes slightly different. If again going back in the day, we used to take a supply of Calpol from the UK with us, because actually the similar things out in the States didn't taste quite as the same. And so even if the kids were feeling a little under the weather and you were looking for a bit of Calpol, it was a bit of, the great flavored whatever it is we try to palm them off with just didn't work. So being proactive and actually taking stuff over with you, not only do you get that little bit of extra space to fill up on all the merch that the kids obviously want to buy, which usually involves an awful lot of plush and etc. But you've got space coming back because you're going to use it, and I think it's a great planning tip, because actually your kids are then, certainly I think one of our first trips when Joe, I think our Joe was probably about 18 months old and was still, still taking sort of formula milk or something. I might be wrong. Might even be when we went to Paris when he wasn't even 1. That's another story. But taking formula from the UK, the pre-mixed stuff or whatever, is such a step forward, because actually everything in the States is different. It tastes different. And if you've got a child who is either got an intolerance to certain brands, then you don't want that to be sort of part of your holiday experience. You want to just exist like you do at home.
Yeah.
And then your kids will just get that. It's that grazing thing as well. It's a really good bit of advice, that.
Yeah, and you don't want to be worrying about trying to find food in the parks, and because it is a hassle. So, my youngest actually has a cow's milk intolerance as well. So that was something we'd done a lot of research into, in terms of what can we get at the resort, what can't we get at the resort. Okay, what's the alternative? So it's worth doing your research on like where you are, what it offers, and probably more importantly, what it doesn't offer, so that you can plan for it
That's
and around.
really, really good.
Yeah. And trying to realise where things are, where is your nearest Walmart, Publix, Target, to be able to get stuff. Because there's so many different options there. You can get stuff like delivered to the hotel. There's generally, my hotels have a lot of stuff that you can get if you've forgotten or if you run out or something.
But also generally a bit more pricey.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Disney
that's
tax.
the options there. You know, in the past, I mean, I think you can probably get people to maybe pick it up for you as well if you don't have the car, and or a taxi out to a local Walmart or something's probably not that much of a so if you're going to stock up, or I've seen people obviously order stuff in as well. It looks pretty good.
Apparently you can do, was it DoorDash from like Target?
Can you?
Okay.
So something different,
something to think about for next time. Yeah. So I think that's just, you kind of have to structure the days. I mean, I'm a big spreadsheet person as well, so you kind of like what's that famous line? If they're more like guidelines anyway, or something. But you kind of have a trying to as much discipline as you can to then have the freedom to have fun. And then with attractions, it was tailored to them really. It was I like the big rides. And the plan for that was like, if they were sleeping or having a bit of downtime, that would be my opportunity to maybe go and do a ride that I wanted to do that they can't do. And we tried to structure it that it was like we saw it through a lens of maybe doing attractions that you wouldn't ordinarily do if it was just you were there on your own or without kids. And that that was great fun because like things like Peter Pan's Flight or Winnie the Pooh, Small World. It's great to watch them have the experience as opposed to I've been on this before. I've been on this a lot of times before, so it's lovely to watch them see it for the first time or experience it for the second time, and how they react to it and see it and talk about it. So, I definitely say embrace. You've got to embrace those attractions that weren't necessarily a priority because it's what they can do, and they would get something out of it.
I think that's one of the things as well, though, Steve. And I think this is where for you, as the kids grow older in future trips and etc., they're going to be able to do that little bit more. So you're going to have that sort of that run through from Winnie the Pooh, Peter Pan, and Small World just now, and then you get to that. I've actually got a ride photo just totally in mind of the first time Joe, who was tall enough to go on Expedition Everest.
Yeah.
And there's a picture, and he's got this. He's looking back at the camera, and the look on his face is one of slight fear, slight pride that he's now tall enough, and just that whole thing of, oh my word, what am I letting myself in for?
Yeah.
And it is the most beautiful thing. And when your children are at that age of 5 and 2. It's that ability to see what it brings to them. I actually feel that, I think you've done a really cracking thing in taking them so young, because there's a lot of people say, oh, well, it's a waste of money taking them. I take a 2-year-old. Oh, take a 2-year-old because actually they're seeing it for the first time, and you as a parent are watching it. Someone so young get that adrenaline buzz and get that same amazing feeling that you still get as an adult, but you've kind of learned to cope with it. They're getting this left, right, and center, and that look in their eyes as you're looking at your children, and their eyes are kind of bulging simply because they're sort of, it's that complete overstimulation of movement, color, music, and it's just there in front of them. It's their it's their land as much as it's ours, and it's amazing. It really is one of those moments in life. It will stay with you as a parent forever, and you get such a buzz. And I'll warn you now, it means that you'll end up going back quite a bit. It's because nothing else kind of compares to it, and the kids love it, and that for me is why you go on holiday as a family. It's not it's not like lying on a beach. And as a kid, that bored the life out of me. As an adult, it bores the life out of me. So I'm not likely to subject my kids to just lying and frying for 2 weeks. I need to go and do something. I'm sure somebody
No,
in a park.
that's wonderfully put, because I can really resonate with that. Really, having had that experience, because we always said that we wanted to take them that young, but you always question it. That maybe when you have kids and then they get a bit old, and then it got to a point where it's like, what are we waiting for, really? Lots of people, they won't remember it, no, but you will.
Yeah, you'll have those memories.
And that's part of it. And we managed to go for 2.5 weeks this time, and the quality time as a four is just priceless. I mean, I don't know if you ever remember these old Disney used to do these planning DVDs. There was one of them starts with a poem, which ends with "This is the place where magic lives," but within it says, "Enjoy." It's a place where it's a simple pleasure of just being a family, and I really felt that this time, because you are just together, and that place kind of gives it to you, and kind of above all else, that's what you want to do more of it, because it just makes you realize or really appreciate what you've got.
And it's one of those things, I think we would all probably agree that Walt Disney World's always been that place where you can just forget about everything at home. It's just a place you get to switch off and just be you. You don't have to worry about work. You don't have to worry about anything else going on in life. In 2016, there was 9 of us that went in our family, and it was completely different for the 3 or 4 trips we've been before. But we had to planned in a different way. We had our spreadsheet. Everybody ignored the spreadsheet. We all went our own way, all did different things. But we all had so many different memories and moments of stuff. I think you've got a picture with your brother and sister at Disney Springs. And
a picture.
And it's just a memory that you'll always remember, but it's like they've not been back to Florida since. And it's something that you just have to be in that moment, and just, age doesn't matter when you go into Disney. You always see these things of like, oh, I'll wait till they're older, I'll wait till they're teenagers, they can do things like Velocicoaster or Terra and do other stuff. It's like, no, you're missing the point.
You miss other stuff.
You miss other stuff. You're going to miss all the stuff that, and how many times in the show we've said about pausing and letting the stuff happen and letting the magic come to you. You don't have to go to Magic Kingdom and ride all the rides. You can just go there and enjoy the atmosphere, and other stuff, you just have to take notice of it when it happens.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been there with big groups.
Yeah.
I went with 9 friends. We'd all just turned 21, and obviously drink in America at that point. So, and I mean, we went for 2 weeks, and it was, but planning for 10 people, that was a lot easier, because it was very much a go with the flow type situation. But I was kind of, because I'd been before, I was one of the people that were kind of trying to set up what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And then I've been with like family as a big group. I mean, that's a different dynamic, because I think you've got to harness expectations or extract what people want from it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it goes off piste, and it can get quite awkward very quickly.
Some people go on this holiday to have a holiday with family, not thinking about we're going to Walt Disney World, and you have sort of that aspects of it, and it's like, and without knowing what you want to do while you're going out there, not having a list of like must-dos or where you want to eat, what's the dynamic, it can create a bit of friction.
Yeah, definitely. So, it's important. It's important to definitely have that communication, especially with people that maybe haven't gone.
Yes.
To understand what they maybe expect of it, and tailor it to that, so that everybody kind of gets what they want. Yeah. You'd enjoy it anyway. You very rarely have a bad time, don't you? But
I don't know anyone that's really been or heard of anyone that's been and gone like, I'm not going again. Normally it's maybe because they've spent too much money, but that usually stop you going. But
no.
I'm sure there have been people.
I think it probably is, and I think we're hitting upon something here, because actually, if you look at that whole large group dynamic, of which I've got to admit I've always kept myself a little bit away from, because I find it very difficult in a position, I find it difficult to tell someone, I planned a whole week to 10 days from my brother one time, and he ignored the whole lot of it. And I put a lot of time and effort into it, but he went and did his own thing, and he's never been back because he's like, oh, no, it's not for me. I'm like, well,
Oh, you didn't
think
use
about
If you'd stuck to my plan, you would have enjoyed it.
Yeah. And he was like, and it's that whole thing of maybe trying to do too much. Is your expectation too high? Because actually, if you go in as a larger group, you really need to reel that in, because you're never going to please everybody. No. And if you're the one who kind of feels responsible for the planning part of it, you kind of take it to heart when someone's on the periphery and say, well, I don't want to do that, and you kind of take it and it detracts from your enjoyment of the whole day. So I've always been quite, I've always been trying to think of a polite way of saying it. It's probably up myself. Is probably
John. I agree with you, John, because that's how I felt.
You've avoided it, huh?
That's how I felt in 2016, because I remember we did all this planning. We had a spreadsheet. We were all on the quick service dining plan, but then it got closer to the date where it was like, okay, and when we got out of there, it was like, okay, everyone's going off in different ways. It's like people asking lots of questions. It's like, I thought, oh, have I failed because I've tried to plan their trip? It didn't help that I'd left everyone's Universal tickets back at home. That wasn't the best thing. We got to Gatwick Airport, and it was like there was just something in the back of our mind that something's missing. We're all having dinner at the Premier Inn. And as I got back to the room and gone like, okay, where are those tickets? And it was like, have I got time? Because we hadn't driven. We got a taxi from home up to Gatwick. It's like, okay, I got to get a train home, get to them. Am I going to get this in time? Luckily, I think from another podcast or from somewhere at the time, I had taken a photo of the back of the Universal tickets. So on our first day, everyone else we went to Hollywood Studios. In the afternoon, we nipped to Universal Studios and said, what can we do with these? And they said, as long as everyone brings their passport, we'll reprint them for you. So
it's back in the day of paper tickets.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that now.
There's no e-ticket QR code, which would have made it a lot easier now.
Would have done.
Really would have done, yeah.
Sorry.
There you go. I knew you were going to cough there. Right.
It's biting.
See, going to bring you back to the family planning part of it, because I think it's a really good one to help other people kind of understand. You've already mentioned about taking a stroller with you for the children. Did you get that when you got there, or did you take one from the UK? That's my first question.
No, we took one with us. So we bought one especially for it. So after kind of the research and then settling on the fact, right, we need one, we need a double. And to be honest, I think they are. Well, I know Orlando. They've got their own stroller rentals, but doing some research, it would have worked out far more expensive to rent them for the period of time we were there, as opposed to spending I think we must have spent about £140, £150 on a double stroller, which is effectively £10 a day. Well, it was no, we were there for 17, 18 nights, so you're talking just under £10 a day for what we've used it for, and hopefully we'll get another trip out of it. But you need it in the airports. To have it up to the gate is great. If you've got a stroller going through security, they will put you through the fast lane whether you've paid for it or not. So it's a great hack. You can take it right up to the gate. We flew with Virgin out of Manchester, and it was they were fab at the gate. Put it in a bag. We got it when we got back. When we got to Orlando, we got it. There was a bit. It's difficult because it's a long flight, and you don't get the stroller for a little while. Until you put your baggage, basically. Plus, you have to find out where it is because it won't come out with obviously your baggage. So you've just got to make sure you make a note or try and do your best to find out where that is. It's best just to ask somebody because you'll be pointing out straight away. But then you've got it again. You've got it through up to the monorail. I was quite nervous about getting through because we had a lot of baggage plus the stroller. So thinking about that escalator, but you've got the lifts, which were very simple. I think the big thing about getting to the States is you have to wait. But if you're prepared for it, then you can try and do your best to to kind of harness the kids through it.
I think it's one of those things after a long flight, you just want to get moving. And it's one of those things everything feels like it takes longer. You're there waiting for your bags. There's then that next step. And it's just like you just want to go and get your car or get to your resort or hotel villa.
Definitely. And, it was effectively very late by the time we got there. I mean, my eldest was desperate to go in the pool. I was thinking, we better get there quickly.
It's the little things, isn't it? Like, you've got to keep them. And actually, when you're on the flight, in their minds, that's one of the things that kind of gets into their mind that I want to do this before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't feel as if I'm actually on holiday, and you just have to roll with it. It's one of those really weird things that. I think we'll probably. I might pop into this in a moment, but the needs of the kids from being on the flight, especially because for young children to sit within an aircraft for 8 hours plus is really pushing your luck. And I know we tried to do it a different way of actually going indirect to kind of break the journey, but it didn't make it any easier at all. But once you're actually at Disney, it's actually trying to respond to what their needs are. And I think that for me is one of the key things. If they want an ice cream, then it's not worth having the battle as to whether or not X, Y, and Z ice cream is better than, or there's one in the freezer back in the hotel. Just go with it, because actually it's not worth the battle.
Yeah.
Because fine well it's going to detract from your experience and your day, and And okay, within limits, because my kids listen to this show and they'll be like, well, you always said no, which I did quite a lot.
John, I think you owe Josh and Joe ice creams.
Yeah, probably.
100%. They can't have everything. But it's almost sometimes it's an easy win. They're the priority anyway, but when it comes to things like that, it's like, okay, let's tick that box, and we'll move on. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because a lot of people will say to you, it's like, oh, we're getting for park opening, we'll stay for the entire day and we'll be there for fireworks, etc. And actually, your day completely, once you're a parent, your day completely changes, because if you try to do that, by the time you get about day 3 or 4, you've got that child that you've probably seen yourselves, as the struggling going up Main Street at 9 a.m. in the morning. They're already screaming and giving it what for, and you're walking past and you're just thinking, oh my word, thank goodness they're not mine. And you just think, carry on quickly, kids, but make sure you don't stay too loud. But happiest place on earth.
That's why it's important to consider the structure of the day as well, because in all likelihood, the first few days they are going to be up very early, which is what we found, and actually we quite enjoyed that because it gave us time to prepare for the day. In terms of you could get out roughly when you wanted to get out because you'd been up for so long. The first day we'd planned just a resort day to just kind of acclimatise, and because we were there for 2.5 weeks, we didn't feel the pressure, having obviously not been there for 6 years as well. We didn't feel the pressure to let's get to a park straight away, which is kind of the norm that we've experienced. So we had a resort day, and then we took the Skyliner to the boardwalk for an ice cream, and we chilled on the Beach Club beach. And that first day was probably one of my favourite days. But it gave them chance to kind of just feel their way into it. And then that repeated itself. So you were up early, but you could get out, not for a rope drop, but, because like the Skyliner from Art of Animation and Pop Century, I don't think starts until 30 minutes before Hollywood Studios or Epcot opens. And the queue can be all the way around the lake because it's just backlogged until it starts moving.
Wow. Yeah.
So even if you wanted to get out for rope drop, you've probably got to get out of your room an hour before the Skyliner starts, and then have to wait. And then you think, that's when we were like feeding snacks to each other because it was there's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
And then the structure of your day, we watched a lot of vlogs because we were kind of like, I don't think we're going to be able to get out all day, but we actually found that sometimes we could just go with it and sometimes we were out all day, but we always had the option, like John was saying earlier, that especially if we were in Epcot or Hollywood Studios, it was just a quick Skyliner back to the resort.
Yeah.
And we were probably more intentional about planning in pool afternoons, mornings, just so it just slows it down a little bit. And, there's a great splash pad art of animation as well, so it kind of keeps them occupied. And there's a few play areas. And I mean, play areas was a big thing we looked at actually, because there's one in Epcot outside of, it's called the Green Landing Zone, I think. And it's just outside of Innovations, just adjacent
Yes,
there.
Yes.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Fabulous playground. We were in there multiple times, but it was just a great way to blow off a bit of energy. We could sit down. I've got a great picture where I'm sat there and I've actually got an iced coffee. Sorry, Becca. I think my wife had gone to change my youngest, and I was just watching my eldest just have a bit of fun basically, and it was just kind of captures the moment. So, but you don't realise, having not been with children as opposed to going as a child, the playgrounds like the Boneyard in Animal Kingdom is fantastic for that. I mean, we lost an hour in there easy. It's a great way to break your park day up, and it gives them just a bit of autonomy as well. To they're not being pulled or pushed around to go on rides or to eat. They've kind of got freedom of space to play, which are great additions to the parks.
I think we all need that when we're in a park. I think it's so easy to just get there and just go to the first attraction and actually not trying to acclimatise. And I think so many times that first morning, I don't know how many times we've woken up at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. and just gone okay, let's get up, let's go find the nearest place for breakfast. It's always been, I remember we've been to, I don't know, IHOP, Denny's.
At 5 in the morning.
5 in the morning, it's like there's no one else around. But it's just one of those things, that first day, I think for us, we found getting to a park early, but we'll always be at Disney Springs in the afternoon, just because by the time it's got till after lunch, I'm like, okay, no, I need to stop. I'm doing too much, because it's so easy to burn yourself out that first few days. Imagine when you've got a big group or a family with you, all trying to do the same thing.
5-year-old.
And it's if this is like their first trip or first time experience Orlando weather, knowing what the humidity is like, how hot it can be, and
summer,
and completely out of routine that you normally would be in.
No, I've made that mistake a few times where you're just so eager to get going, and by day 2 or 3, you've done too much.
Yeah.
So it's definitely you've got to pace yourself.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
I would also add into that, I think there's a bit of a difficulty now. We'd only have a 14-day ticket option, which obviously you can use over 18 days. So previously we would have gone for the 21-day option. So if you're going for 3 weeks, fine well you can get into a park on that first morning. And now, I think possibly you said you went for over 2.5 weeks. We were in that same boat. We were there for 3 weeks, and actually we knew we didn't want to burn the park ticket on the very first day. And that goes against my natural instinct, because actually you're up early. You can actually go and do half a park, come out, go and enjoy the pool, have a bit of a break, and then your day kind of fizzles out obviously as the kids become more aware of the fact that actually 7 o'clock US time is back to midnight bedtime for the kids, and as their body clocks kind of adjusted. So it's a bit more tricky to actually do that at this particular moment, because we don't have that 3-week ticket where you can go for 21 days. You can just pop into a park and come out. I think I mentioned this on a podcast was it the October show or something like, or start of November show. You then find yourself in that boat where every single day is kind of, you're going to have to fill up your whole park day to make it, to justify it. So I think your idea of actually just having a bit of a chill out on that first day is probably a bit of a masterstroke in some ways, just to allow the children to just sort of adapt. And it's so easy. It's so easy to go hell for leather so early on in a trip as well, isn't it? Though, because you just you want to go and do it all, and then you suddenly find you just get 4 or 5 days in, and it's that drop off of the cliff where everyone is just nah, can we go shopping? Can we just not do anything today? We just can't do it, you know?
There's always a day where you're just like, okay, I need to be by the pool, just like leave me by the pool all day. You can do what you want. And it probably as a group and as a family, it's that point where it's like, okay, I've spent 5 days solid with you. I need a break for an hour or so, a couple of hours just to go and do something different.
Yeah, especially large groups, it can get intense.
Especially if everyone, and you're probably not used, if you go for a larger group and you're not used to spending so much time together, and especially if you're going around the park trying to do every attraction at the same time, doing the same thing, instead of splitting off and doing that. I remember that we did that with my mum and dad, and it was like, it was difficult trying to keep everyone together because everyone wants to do different things, and then it's like you've booked a dining reservation for everyone on like this time, and it's like trying to get everyone to there. It's not easy.
Definitely. But you get Disney tired as well, don't you, towards the end, and you don't want that to creep in a bit earlier than you need it to. So to break it, I think you just learn over so many trips that you change up the pace a little bit. You split your days a little bit more. Maybe not so much. It's not just a park day. It's sometimes there's a couple of occasions we didn't get into the park till the evening, and that was a nice mix up. And it just keeps you a bit fresher, doesn't it? It's especially when we had to consider a lot about the fireworks as well with the small children, because mine aren't, they like fireworks but they don't like the noise created. Having going to Disney, there's always going to be a soundtrack, and I thought that'll cloak it. It will be fine, which my wife very quickly had to bring me away from. And because I love Fantasmic, but I've not seen Fantasmic since 2014.
Oh, okay.
It just hasn't, the times we've gone, it just hasn't worked. So I was desperate to go, but the showtime Fantasmic's like 9:30, and it's just a no-go really, and I kind of had to accept that. So we didn't do that, but then with like Happily Ever After, we did it on the People Mover one night.
Oh, okay.
Which was fab, because it's a different perspective. The kids are on a moving vehicle, so they're kind of occupied. They've not just got the fireworks to concentrate on and are concerned about the noise. You've got it's fun with mum and dad around the track, and you've got the fireworks going off, and you can hear the soundtrack as you kind of dip in and out. So that was a great mix up. We were very the room at the Poly. I paid for a garden view room.
Okay.
And when we checked in, we were on the building to the left.
Yeah.
And I very quickly realised the room was on the park side.
Okay.
Ooh. And I walked into this room, and I could see the castle, and I was like, I'm melted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But as we drew the curtains, it was the building site of the DVC resort.
The new tower.
And I was kind of like, I said to my wife, I was like, we've obviously been upgraded, I think, here.
Yeah.
But there's a building.
Am I going to complain about it? Which I didn't in the end. I'd love to be able to stay there again, because I reckon we looked at where the Moana boat is with the pool. It was pretty much our view, I think. But what that enabled us to do was, it was perfect for us really, because it enabled us to watch the fireworks from the room, the comfort of our room, and you can play the soundtrack live through
your TV. Yeah.
And that was, I think we did that for the remaining nights. That was really special. Just did not expect that at all. But it's not always something you can plan for, but just goes to show, I think there's ways to experience the fireworks without standing on Main Street for an hour with two small children. We've actually made it. We've actually now want to make it a tradition that we watch the fireworks in a different spot each time around Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, there's so many good places.
Yeah,
there really are. I think we've seen them from Bay Lake Tower. Well, from Contemporary.
Well, we've seen them from all three of the Magic Kingdom resorts.
Grand Floridian. There's quite a few places you can go there to get a good view. Poly Beach.
Because we wanted to watch them from the beach at the Poly, but for our final 2 days, it was like a monsoon, and it just did not stop raining. Yeah. So, but then I think the dock at the Grand Floridian's supposed to be
Yeah.
a very good spot
It
as
is
well.
a good spot.
Yeah.
The
And that's
Polynesian
far
dock
enough
is
away.
quite nice as well.
Yeah.
No.
So, I mean, definitely for smaller kids. I think when they get older than maybe 5 or 6, they could probably be a bit more tolerant to it. But definitely with smaller
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry
I think-
about standing in the middle of a park.
I think as well, I think that kind of that introduction to what is actually a massive Disney tradition. And if you just chuck them in the middle, if you could imagine being in the middle of the hub and it's really warm, really uncomfortable. They don't see an awful lot. Noise becomes a bit of an issue. The crowding part of it becomes a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Now they actually understand a little bit more that these fireworks happen every night. And within their own minds, it's like, oh, we want to go and see it. And eventually, as they get older, they want to get a little bit closer. And it becomes their choice. It becomes it kind of becomes their decision as to how they adapt to it. The one thing I would warn you about Fantasmic is you forget just how dark the actual script is for children that are so young. And it's when it's that good over evil bit. And I remember being there when my boys were really young, and we were just like, it's all right. Just remember, Mickey will win in the end. And it's just because they were just like, oh no, don't. And they got totally into exactly what young children are actually seeing and taking at total face value. And as an adult, you're thinking, no, you're all right. But as a child, it's ultimately scary, it's frightening. And to see that and to see just how their faces react, and as a parent of how quickly you can think of a way of explaining exactly what's going on is quite something. So you maybe dodged a bit of a bullet there, I think, Steve.
Yeah, I might have to wait a couple more years before that.
I think so. I think so. Yeah, definitely.
It's still the best show, I think, of Walt Disney World.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Just-
It's
I think for longevity, I'd agree with you because it's. I was very much. I was gutted when Illuminations went. Really gutted. And I didn't know if it would be the same. But I mean, we it was harmonious when we were there, and didn't love it when I was there. But since I've come back and listened to the soundtrack, I almost can't wait to go and see it again.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you create those memories. You don't realise to me in the present moment that what you're feeling or experience about it. But for longevity, like Fantasmic's probably taken over, I'd say.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. There's been so many changes over the past few years from when Illuminations went, and then it turned to Epcot Forever, which then went to Harmonious, and then Epcot Forever came back when it dismantled it. And there's been so much. Epcot has just gone through so much change. And it's like, it'll be nice just for what they have now to stay, because people are going to go back year after year and they're going to expect a new show now because their last trip, they had something different and then the trip before that was something different. That shouldn't be the expectation. And I know a lot of people didn't like Harmonious. I enjoyed Harmonious. I loved the soundtrack. Yes, I understood why people didn't like it in the lagoon, sort of blocking the sight lines during the daytime, but it's one of those things.
That was it. Sorry, it was Harmonious. Sorry, I would have seen Luminous. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's Luminous is what I saw.
Yeah. Luminous is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that was the same at Magic Kingdom as well, wasn't it? They
just
out of nowhere dropped Happily Ever After,
and then brought in Enchantment.
Yeah,
which lasted, and then got rid of that.
The will of the people has prevailed, I think, there.
Yeah. Yes.
But
I think some people didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Happily Ever After because they got rid of it when the borders were closed. So it was one of those ones that it was, but they didn't announce whether it was for the 50th, was it going away, or was it a permanent going away?
I think they were waiting to test the waters to see how well Enchantment did, and if everybody loved it and took off, they're just going to keep it.
But it's got to be good because they've bought it back, and the only way to see Enchantment now is if you pay and do the after hours at Magic Kingdom, because you can in one night you can go see Happily Ever After, then the park closes, you do your after hours, and they do Enchantment.
Yeah.
So it's got its following.
Did that with Wishes though last year?
No, that was a cast member evening where they went through. They did multiple fireworks shows, so you had Happily Ever After and they had Wishes on the same night.
Yeah, well. I mean, I'd love to see Wishes again.
Yeah.
Wishes.
Yeah.
Wishes was.
Yeah.
Just so good.
Now we're talking. Here we go.
Wishes, illuminations. Steve, we're going to have you back on for another show. We
Definitely.
definitely are.
No, I'd love
Yeah.
to. Love to. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, it's been an incredible show.
delight.
There's so many tips, hints and tips for anyone who's planning that next trip to Walt Disney World, whether your family is sort of 2 small children or whether you're going for a big group of like 10 people. I think there's so many different ways you can do a trip. But yeah, it's clear that while planning a group trip, it definitely comes with its challenges. But also within that, there are some cherished memories, whether it's seeing the joy on a child's face during the first character meet or showing a laugh on a classic ride. These moments are what make these trips to Walt Disney World worthwhile. So, thanks everyone for those wonderful insights. And to our listeners, we hope today's episode helps you feel more prepared and excited for your next family or group adventure to Disney. So that's all for this episode of the Great British Mickey Waffle. Thank you for joining us today, and a special thanks to Steve for being part of the show. It's been a pleasure.
No, thanks, guys. Loved it.
If you enjoyed today's chat, please take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. It really helps us spread the Disney magic. And for those watching on YouTube, we'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe too. So don't forget to follow us on our social media for more tips, fun and updates. We are at GB Mickey Waffle on Facebook, TikTok and Instagram. So we'll be back soon with even more Disney insights and stories. So until next time, we'll see you real soon.
Now my wheels in motion and my